Number 4. Water recycling. Water's main role in the biogeochemical cycles would be to carry and cycle nutrients through the ecosystem. Water is a great solvent due to its ability to carry nutrients through varying temperatures. This is because of hydrogen bonding. Water molecules are not very strong by themselves, however, in mass quantity are very strong. Hydrogen bonding between the water molecules can constantly break and reform, allowing it to stay strong through huge temperature changes and continue transferring nutrients. Water can also cycle nutrients well because of the density of the hydrogen bonds. Water is densest at 4 degrees, so when it reaches that temperature, let's say at the top of a lake, it falls down, pushing the colder water up and bringing those nutrients down with it. It can continue to cycle like this. In summary, water is a great universal solvent due to its mass quantity and excellence in dissolving and transferring nutrients across massive temperature sways. So that's its primary role in all biogeochemical cycles. Also, shout out to groundwater for keeping most of the world alive. It is some of the cleanest water in the world and forms when water infiltrates due to precipitation. But it doesn't find a storage place like an ocean. Instead, it sits in cracks of rocks or found in caves. Number 3. The carbon and oxygen cycle. The carbon and oxygen cycle all start with producers and consumers. Consumers' waste product is carbon dioxide, which producers intake to go through photosynthesis, which produces sugar. They can then use the sugar for cellular reproduction, and the waste product of that is oxygen. This is a naturally occurring process, however humans suck and we are amplifying this cycle by tenfold, which is eventually going to burn us to death. We burn fossil fuels, drive cars, and have factories constantly running which give off massive carbon dioxide emissions. When the sun's energy comes into the earth, these gases trap the sun's heat from going out of our atmosphere, continually warming the earth, which will eventually be devastating. Humans need to reduce these emissions by finding alternative sources of energy, such as solar or wind energy, which gives off no carbon dioxide emissions. Anyways, another huge effect we have in this cycle is acid decomposition. The fossil fuels we burn give off tons of sulfur emissions into the atmosphere, which then combine with the water vapor becoming massively acidic. This then precipitates down, causing lakes to acidify, can damage producers and leach nutrients from lakes. The organism, which is carbon moving from reservoirs to reservoirs quickly, such as a producer to a decomposer back to the atmosphere. Unfortunately, all of these organisms would die because of acid decomposition. However, there is slow cycling carbon which involve no organisms. It's basically carbon that cannot find an organism to go through the fast cycling process. These carbon reserves are found very deep underground and normally become fossil fuels. In summary, humans suck. We ruined the naturally occurring cycle and we're all gonna burn to death. The carbon cycle is pretty neat though. Number 2, nitrogen cycling. Our atmosphere consists of 78% nitrogen, 28% oxygen, and 1% argon and carbon dioxide. Most organisms cannot use nitrogen in our atmosphere, except for some nitrogen-fixing bacteria commonly found on the roots of legumes. In a process called denitrification, these bacteria can take the nitrogen in the atmosphere and turn it into solid compounds the plant can use for nutrients. A more in-depth look shows the nitrogen-fixing bacteria convert the nitrogen into ammonium, then into nitrate the plant can use as a source of nitrogen. Then these bacteria turn it back into nitrate. At the end of the cycle, the bacteria turns it back into nitrate, which goes back into the atmosphere. Interestingly enough, lightning can remove nitrogen from the atmosphere because it's powerful enough to rip apart the nitrogen molecules, which allows their atoms to combine with oxygen, forming nitrogen oxide. This then dissolves in the rain or any form of precipitation. Number 1. The phosphorus cycle. The phosphorus cycle is a lot simpler than the rest of the other biogeochemical cycles. There are two forms of it, the long-term phosphorus cycle and the short-term phosphorus cycle. The long-term cycle is a process in which phosphorus moves through rocks, water, and soil using precipitation and weathering against rocks, which slowly over time release phosphate ions which seep into water and soil using infiltration. This process involves no living organisms, whereas the short cycle does. Consumers intake food and gives them their phosphate supplement, which is found in the molecules ATP and DNA. This is then defecated out or they die, and decomposers can decompose this organic matter which seeps into the soil, or plants can then intake it, or it can seep into the water. However, if there is a surplus of phosphorus in an aquatic environment, algae can use this as a nutrient and completely cover lakes or ponds and suffocate fish or other living organisms. This is because algae relies on nutrients to grow, so if there's too much phosphorus in a body of water, they can use it and bloom. Now you may be wondering how all these biogeochemical cycles connect with one another, and I'll tell you. Matter is constantly being recycled in our ecosystems through chemical compounds, elements, different states of matter, producers, consumers. All of these cycles are interconnected into one big conglomerate cycle of matter. The phosphorus cycle relies on the water cycle, as the water cycle relies on the carbon cycle, as the carbon cycle relies on the water cycle. Without one of these cycles, all other cycles would collapse. The world has a method to its madness. Unfortunately, humans are all affecting these cycles in a negative way with deforestation, waste dumping, pumping so many surplus of chemicals into air and bodies of water drastically, but slowly screwing up these cycles until it's no longer repairable. My name is Chills, and if you've ever wondered what I look like, follow me at DylanIsChillin' YT. It's a proven fact that generosity makes you a happier person, so please hit that like button. Thank you for watching this video.